Well, we're looking at 9.1 simple events, and this whole chapter is dealing with probability. So the first thing we're going to look at is it says outcome is any one of the possible results of an action. That is the outcome, what the results are of it. The simple events is one outcome or a collection of outcomes. Okay, it's just one of the outcomes. That's the simple event. We're trying to, for example, rolling dice. That's the outcome is any one of the possible results. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 that's rolled. Simple event is saying what's the probability of rolling a 6. So one outcome would be 1 out of 6 possibilities. The probability is the chance of an event actually happening. So here's what is going to look like, where it will say P standing for probability. The event is whatever they're asking. For example, probability of rolling a 6. And then it would be the number of favorable outcomes over the number of possible outcomes. So if my P probability of a 6, that would be, and again we're talking about rolling a number cube or dice, number of favorable outcomes, well, we only have 1 6 on a die, and number of possible outcomes, there's a total of 6. So my answer to this, the probability of rolling a 6 on a number cube or a die, it would be 1 out of 6. Okay, so let's look at a couple other situations. It says, what is the probability of rolling an even number on a number cube marked with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on its faces? Again, number cube is referring to dice. Okay, so probability of an even number would be even numbers, that's the favorable outcomes, over the total number of possible. Okay, so we have 3 possible numbers that are even, 2, 4, and 6, out of a possible 6, which then would be reduced, and you always put the fraction in simplest form to 1/2. Okay, you're not going to make them a decimal, you're not going to make them a percent, it's just writing it as a fraction. Okay, now obviously if you wanted to make it a percent, divide 1 divided by 2, and you get the 0.5, which would then be 50% chance. Okay, so, but in this case, all we are wanting is the fraction form for today. So probability of, again, rolling dice, okay, the number cube is what they're referring to. I want you to go ahead and solve these, hit pause, and solve them, and then you can compare your answers to what I get. So the probability of rolling a 4 would be that there's 1 4 out of a possible 6. Okay? And some of you might want to be putting a 4 down here. No. It is the possible outcomes. There are a total of 6 numbers. There's only 1 out of that possible 6. Probability of rolling a 1, 2, or 3. Well, those are 3 different numbers and a possible 6 numbers. So equaling 1/2. For this particular one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Well, there's a possible 6 numbers that we're looking at out of a possible 6. So my answer to that is 1 whole, okay, which equals basically 100% chance. You're going to roll one of those numbers. And for letter E, the probability of rolling an 8, well, is there an 8 on a number cube? No, there is not. So it's 0 out of 8, which in turn would be 0 or 0%. No chance at all. Okay, so let's look at another type of example. A set of cards numbered 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 20. Okay, so 20 cards. Suppose you pick a card at random without looking. Find the probability of each event, write as a fraction in simplest form. So I want you to go ahead, answer those questions accordingly, and hit pause, and we'll see if you get the same that I get. All right, let's look at this first one, letter A. Probability of rolling a 4 or selecting a card, a 4 or a 9. Well, How many cards are there? Well, that are dealing with these that have a 4 or a 9 on it? Well, there's just 2. There's a card that has a 4 and a card that has a 9. So 2 out of a possible 20 cards, which then reduces by dividing both of those by 2 to get 1/10. For letter B, probability of not drawing an 8. Well, how many cards are not 8s? Well, it would be the difference between that. There's only one card that is an 8, so a total of 19 cards out of a possible 20. And that can not be simplified any further. 19 is prime. For letter C, the probability of a number that is not a prime number. Well, numbers that are not prime means that they are composite numbers. Okay, so a number that is not a prime number. This gets to be a little more complicated, and we have to be very, very careful with when we do this, because of the fact that, and we've discussed this before, how 0 and 1 are not considered prime numbers. Okay, they're not prime or composite, so we have to be very, very careful with that. So we're going to end up with numbers that are not prime would be 2, 3 is, 4, 5 is prime, 6, 7 is, 8 is, 9. What times what gives me 9? Well, 3 does, so 9 is composite. 10, 11 is prime. 12, 13 is prime. 14, 15, 16, 17 is prime. 18, 19 is prime, and 20. So a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 numbers are not prime numbers. And I guess you could look at this a little differently. You could, I'm looking at how they said not prime. 1 is not prime either. So you really should have that in there the more that I look at that. So 1 would be included in that. So you have to be very, very careful as you're going through this, as I was. So it's a couple different ways you could look at it, but actually it would include the 1 because of the question saying that it's not a prime number. It can be any other number, just as long as it's not prime. Okay, so 13 numbers out of a possible 20, and that is in simplest form. Now, as far as multiple of 4, okay, a multiple of 4 would be then saying counting by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Those are multiples of 4. Okay, so then we're going to be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers that are multiples of 4 out of 20, which then is going to equal, by dividing those by 5, 1/4. That would be your answer. Okay, and if you have any further questions, we'll again discuss this in class a little bit further, but this is the basics of what we are going to be doing today. Just so some things that you have to be very careful with, again, is the wording, exactly what they are asking you to do. So certainly write them out, double check, just to be certain. Okay, any other questions? Please bring them and we'll address them in class. Have a great night.